Welcome everyone, my name is Chang and today I will be a news host of sorts. We haven't really presented any logistics news in a fun and short and sweet format, so this is what I'm hoping to do. And welcome to the inaugural episode. This is the life of a logistics person. We're mad as hell. First subject, my dear viewers, will be the Trump tariffs.
Donald Trump's tariffs on America's biggest trading partners has just come into effect. A 25% levy on goods coming from Mexico and Canada and 10% of additional tariffs on exports from China have been imposed.
Now, if you haven't seen the wonderful video my team behind the camera created on the subject of the Trump tariffs, go and watch it. I feel like I've done a pretty decent job in explaining in very simple layman terms of tariffs and what Trump tariffs could mean. Over the weekend, he's announced that he will definitely be imposing the 25% tariff on Canada, on Mexico, and he will add another 10% tariff on China. To be very real with you viewers, at this stage I've lost count with all the percentages being thrown around, all the countries that's being thrown around. Where are we at again? Are we at 1,000% tariff on the countries or not? I don't know. I've lost count. But what does all of this mean? Well, as soon as he mentioned this tariff word again, the markets crashed. Whether Trump is serious or not serious, he needs to understand every one of his words have real impact on the real world. Unfortunately, when he says these outlandish stuff, the people we apparently elect or with the people we give our money to, they go and do these things that affects every single one of us. I have a strange suspicion that this is only the beginning. The stock market will continue to drop. It will be a drop like there is, like this is how Trump talks. This will be a drop like we've never seen before, It's almost comparison to 2008. The way our economy is going, nothing is sustainable, everything is illogical. And now with Trump at the helm, I fear it's only going to get much, much worse before it gets better. Just remember, this is not financial advice. None of what I say should be taken seriously. And you should consult your own financial advisor if you're playing with the stocks or anything relating to finances. I'm just a simple logistics guy. So there's the Trump tariffs. Now, what does that mean for us Australians sitting down under? To be honest, we're so small, it may not mean anything to us. But our number one trading partner, guys, is China, right? Now, if Trump decides to pour these tariffs onto China and so forth, China will find other ways to get their products into the US. On the off chance that China doesn't supply enough to the US, well, they're going to supply stuff to other countries. We might actually come off not bad, well, within reason. And what I mean by that, well, if China's factory now don't have enough customers or they're not supplying enough to the US market, they're going to allow smaller markets to grab more attention from them, grab a lion's share of their supply and so forth. So we might find the quality go up, the minimum quantities might be reduced by these factories, so smaller markets like Australia could potentially benefit. Now, if Trump decides to put tariffs on Australia with our steels and stuff, yes, that will impact us, make no mistake. It will make our economy crash along with them. But then again, if America crashes, Australia is going down a gurgler with them. Why? Because we are part of the same economic system, whether we like it or not. Trump today says tariff, yes.
Tomorrow he's like, no more tariff, the whole world is my friend.
So that's the Trump tariff for this week. And if anything else major happens, I'll report back to you on the next week. Next subject. Well, this has been doing the rounds, especially in Australia and somewhat overseas and definitely in the industry. The elephant in the room, the WiseTech, which is led by Richard White. For you, those of you who do not know him or WiseTech, they are probably the only serious main player in the world that is logistics technology, where it is heavily being utilized by the industry. There really isn't another competitor in the whole space that comes close to WiseTech in its features and functions, and more importantly, market reach. A lot of you tech nerds out there who's never worked a single day in logistics will say, oh no, this company's there. No. Shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. I can assure you, there is not a single second competitor that is with the amount of reach and where you got critical mass using your system, you're sitting in a pretty sweet spot. And this is reflected on its share price. Eventually now I think that I see them as plateauing a bit because people are looking at logistics as a space to disrupt, especially from a technology standpoint. Case in point, us little TGL here, we're writing our own little codes to make a little bit of a splash. Coming soon to a screen near you.
That was a shameless plug, Chang.
Thank you. Back to the topic of this WiseTech. Well, you know, that's who they are. They're a dominant Goliath of a company in logistics technology. Anyone in the industry would know their name. And they are a humble Australian company that's worth billions upon billions. And with that, the dear leader, that is Mr. Richard White, has got himself into a bit of a bother. Why? Well, his own personal dirty laundry has been leaked or surfaced or whatever you want to call it. And that's made a bit of a splash. It's upset the lefties, it's upset the liberals, it's upset the woke. Sure, some of the subjects and so forth makes interesting reading if you like Women's Weekly or Desperate Housewives of, I don't know, Sydney or Bankstown. The reality is stuff like this happens. Until you have $1 billion in your bank account and you can still lead a high moral life, then yeah, maybe you can judge. But before then, shut up. You have no right to judge. You don't know what money will do to you. I'm not trying to be the evil guy or the good guy. I'm simply trying to give you guys some perspective. So his stock market tanked because all these liberals, the board pushed him out, and then he somehow concocts the coup, and then he pushed the members of the board that didn't like him. Now he's back in control, and he's there, the dear leader, White again. To be honest, the shareholders love it because, love him or hate him, he is WiseTech, and he is the face and the brains behind it. But then again, WiseTech is also at the top of the bell curve. Like what I say, guys, what goes up must come down, with or without Richard White. Next story, market conditions. So a lot of you who are watching this via Import-Export, you know it has been completely almost impossible to predict what the market's gonna do. And believe me, us as forwarders who carries your freight, we are as anxious and as nervous as you. You've got Trump making these noises, collapsing markets, stock markets, and all that sort of fun stuff. That has a real flow-on effect to Main Street, right? Whatever happens in Wall Street is going to impact Main Street. Whatever happens in Main Street is going to impact Wall Street. And now we have this condition where everybody is just so interconnected, right? We can't literally fart without it being affecting someone around the world somewhere. So the market conditions aren't great. But to be honest, that's also because of us. All the stuff that we're cluttering our living room and our closets that shouldn't be there. Governments who's given all this money to billionaires to even make them into trillionaires. All of us have contributed to what we are seeing, the inflation, higher interest rates is happening as a result. US dollar is not sustainable because it's backed by $30 trillion worth of debt, which they will never repay. Us little Australians are part of that system, you know, so we are on a sinking ship, ladies and gentlemen. Everything's going down, whether you like it or not, right? Stock market is starting to slide. I've always said to all the stockbrokers or finance bros, you want to know where the market's going, ask a freight forwarder, ask our volumes, ask what the shipping rates are. That will give you a pretty good idea of what the hell is going on in the economy. Strangely enough, Asia to United States ocean freight pricing remains at a very high level, whereas ocean freight pricing from Asia to Australia has been sharply dropping on a fortnightly basis. There is a bit of disconnect. You might ask, well, why are pricing still high from Asia to the US? It could be because a lot of the companies are still ramping up their imports to get to the US before any further rate hikes or tariff hikes. Don't forget, each time 10% goes up, the Walmarts of the world, right? The Sonos of the world, those companies who are importing those products to sell to you will need to pay an extra 10% or 25% or wherever they're buying them from, right? So this is maybe keeping the rates high because the demand is still high. It's contrary to the market overall trend, which we are spending less and, you know, and earning less and spending less and therefore requiring less. But they are just trying to build up their stock so they can get that product at a cheaper level and to sell to you before they have to pay more and increase their prices, which makes everybody's lives difficult. Trump is wanting to impose apparently these levies to the Panama Canal and all that sort of stuff on Chinese-owned vessels. All these talks has an impact on people's reactions because they don't want to leave money in a place where they've got to pay more. They want to shift those funds, you know, and when you shift funds like this, real world stuff gets shifted along with it. And this may be what you see in the freight rate market. With Australia, because we don't have that tariff conditional war with China yet, the pricing has been reducing sharply, correlating to the market conditions, which is getting softer and softer and softer. And if you're in Australia, folks, if you're an importer, exporter, if you want to like me, a freight forwarder, times are gonna get much tougher before it gets better. Time to really work harder and strive for more and try to build better relations with economies that will allow us to trade better as an economy or as a company or as a country or whatever, right? The rest of the world, well, they're pretty insignificant for me at this point and I don't feel like talking about them. Let's scrap those other parts of our beautiful world. Just capping off on that final subject, all the reporting season, you know, like I read these articles on these logistics news sites and even mainstream news sites, and I'm just like, oh man, where are the real journalists gone, right? Like I constantly read, oh, DHL or some big name, oh, come and told us that 2024 reports were great, but they see choppy waters ahead. If that's not apparent to you about 6 months ago and you still need to report that as news, man, you guys are making an easy income, man, and I need to change professions. I need to become a journalist in the logistics industry because that's just easy money. How can you write that up and still call it the news? Freaking. Anyway, I hope to bring you this sort of, you know, jovial, you know, don't take anything I say to heart, guys. I'm just trying to bring a bit of fun back to logistics if there was ever any fun in it to begin with. On that bombshell, my name's Chang. This is Think Global Logistics, your go-to logistics news channel.